On this episode, we take you to the sun-soaked shores of 1930s Key West, Florida, where love, obsession, and death collided in one of the most bizarre true stories ever recorded. He called himself Count Carl von Cosel, a man of science, mystery, and delusion. When he met a young woman named Elena de Hoyos, he believed fate had delivered him his soulmate. But what happened after her death would shock the nation and leave a legacy of morbid fascination that still lingers today. This is the story of Carl Tanzler and the woman he refused to let go. This is Two Cousins, One Podcast, and No Filter.
Good afternoon, good sir. We've got a lovely episode planned for today. Today we're talking about Carl Tanzler. This is something that you brought to my attention just a couple of days ago, and I had no idea who this person is. So I still kind of don't. I'm not gonna lie. I intended on doing some research on this guy, but I didn't do it. I watched a couple of videos today, but I was trying to put some things together, and all the things that I've learned about this guy have just been throughout me putting things together, researching things, and putting it together. So this guy was he was pretty special. This guy.
Oh, to sum it all up, I think before we get into the timeline of what happened, just in case people don't know about Carl Tanzler, initially what he did is he had an obsession with a young lady that he treated for tuberculosis, and he decided after her death that he was gonna go ahead and dig her up and wax her and put some glass eyeballs in and all that fun stuff and dance with her. And I don't even want to know what else.
Yeah, I did read a spot where it was actually on ABC, on ABC's website. They were saying in some sort of editorial, it was like apparently there was this kid that actually the kid was the actual one to snap the photo of him dancing with the corpse.
Yeah, and before we do that, let's just jump into the timeline. So Carl Tanzler, born February 8th, 1977 in Germany. So this story goes, it's obviously this story happened in the 30s, the late 30s, if I'm not wrong. I'm sure somebody will correct me if I am. But yeah, he ended up, he traveled extensively, including through India, Australia, uh, and let's see. Yeah, so after the war, he moved to the U.S. in 1926, settling in Florida, Key West, and working in the U.S. Marine Hospital in Key West.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm at a loss. I'm still at a loss for words sometimes when I go through
Could you
this
imagine
story.
seeing something like this? It probably still happens today, but they just don't broadcast it as
Yeah,
much.
and so in 1930 is when he met Miss Hoyos. Am I saying that correctly?
I think so. Yeah.
And Hoyos,
You were
and
about
she
10 years
was
old then, right?
I think I was about 12 right then.
Yeah.
But she's a 21-year-old Cuban American woman who had tuberculosis. So my understanding of it is, and I'm sure in the comment section, if we're off anywhere, somebody will straighten us out on it really quick. But he treated her for this tuberculosis that was, and he actually did some like really weird shit, like with electroshock therapy and all this other stuff. And she actually got better for a while. But during this time, he was falling in love with her, and he became completely like obsessed. And despite all of that, she died in 1931. Now, something important that I learned just a few days ago, he paid for her mausoleum and the entire funeral.
Oh, wow.
So this is the kind of obsession you're talking about, where it's like majorly obsessed with what I mean. not sure of his age at this time, but he was born in, I mean, she was 21 at the time, so pretty young compared to what his age was.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We can do a little bit of math here. So if you do, you said this was in the 1930s, so we don't know the exact.
Yeah, she died in 1931. I don't have the exact.
Yeah. So basically, 1931 minus, what was it, 18 what?
He was born in
1877?
1877.
Yeah. So that's 54 years. So she's 21 and he's 54 when she died.
Yeah,
So,
right.
um,
Uh, so yeah, and then moving on to the actual grave robbing part. So he exhumed her body from the mausoleum in 1933. So that is 2 years after her death. So not a morgue
so
expert,
she's
but
negative 2 years old now, dead, 2 years dead.
she's 2 years
And,
dead.
yeah.
He
And,
digs her up.
yeah. Rigor mortis is
Well,
set in by now. Right. It's so
yeah,
morbid. It's
it
so
is
weird
morbid.
that we're
It is.
to have this type of conversation.
And so what he did was he used wax. He put glass eyes in her, and you can actually see. By the way, you can actually see pictures of this if you type in his name on. You can because they put the body on display after they caught him. But yeah, wire and cloth. So yes,
That's kind of strange and funny in and of itself as well. It's like what you did was so terrible. It's the bad, like so bad. Uh, hey, Tom. Yeah, you got that thing ready for? We're gonna display the body. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 4 o'clock. Okay. Cool. It's
yeah,
like
that is kind of yeah,
it's
that is
like
kind of
what?
weird. But from seeing pictures of her before her death and seeing pictures of her after he did his thing to her body,
Yeah.
he didn't do too good a job in my opinion.
No. Yeah, it's I saw some of those as well, and I thought that they were like fake. I it didn't look good. It did not look good.
Well, I mean, it sort
I
of
think
really it was fake. I mean, the picture itself wasn't fake, but the body looked so entirely fake that it
yeah,
wasn't even yeah. And
you're
he
almost better off going to find like a dummy or like go and buy a dummy over at Macy's because Macy's was around back then in the 30s, and you could just literally just make up, put makeup on a dummy, a mannequin.
yeah, absolutely. And so here's where we get we've already got wild with it, but here's where it gets really wild. So he lived with her body for 7 years. Now I'm gonna take a wild assumption here. This is just me making an assumption. So if he fixed her body up with the wax, the wire, the cloth, he had to be constantly working on it.
I would imagine. I would imagine. I would imagine. This kind of reminds me of a. Did you ever see the movie Almost Heroes?
Oh yeah, one of my favorites.
Oh, do you remember the part where they go to that one town and the one
The
guy's like, "Oh,
straw
I've got girls," and he's like, "You
the
got
straw
girls?"
whorehouse.
Yeah,
Yeah, the straw whorehouse,
the
yeah.
straw house. And he's like, who's gonna be first? And you got that one guy that always. I love that old guy. There's another piece that he's funny in where he's like talking into an ear, like a chopped off ear, but the
Mhm.
same guy is just like. It's like, well, my lady, my name is blah, 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 whatever his name was at the
Right,
time.
yeah.
He's all formal about it. This kind of reminds me of that. Like they first look at him like, but then they're like, could be fun. you know, you're like, what the
Yeah.
heck, man?
So yeah, so for 7 years he lived with the body, dressed it, spoke to it, danced with it, and even slept beside it, and we don't want to know what else.
We don't want to know it. Don't even ask, because I'm not putting that in my Google at all. I am not ending up on a
No.
list. Satellites are linking up
So
in outer space.
the discovery, so her sister discovered discovered this was going on Now, you were saying earlier before we went on air that there was a kid. You said it was on air. There was a kid that seen him dancing with it.
Right, right. Yeah. So, because my question before that was like, how did the sister find out, and why did it take that long to find out? Because I've never been.
Yeah,
I guess I've never been into like a mausoleum. But I mean, is it like open? Can you like go into a mausoleum and see the body?
I have no idea.
Do you know what I mean? How did they know? Like, her body's not here. I'm getting a premonition.
Well,
You know what I mean?
I think it was I think big time think here. The kid saw him dancing with it.
Yeah. But if he, because you saw the photo, right? The photo of what he did to the body looked nothing like the original person.
Right.
So why would you think like, oh look, what's he doing? What's that? What's Tanzler doing in his house with that person? No, that's not a person. That's a
Well,
mannequin.
so this would be a good part for our listeners, you guys that are listening, if you know anything about how the sister found out, because I'm sure there's probably
There's got
by
to be,
now.
yeah. There's
Well,
got to be something somewhere.
I was gonna say by now there's probably a lot of different information on that. But yeah, if anybody knows anything about how her sister found out or discovered the truth, is what it says. So yeah, if anybody knows how that come
Yeah.
about, the truth behind it, we would love to know that for sure.
Yeah, because think about it, right? So 1933 comes, and then in 1935 he goes and digs her up, right? So then he starts working on her, and it's been what 3 years, so she's already like, I am not.
It's been longer because she in 1940 is when the body was discovered. So, or when they discovered that he had the body, and he dug her up in 33.
Right, so he digs her up in 33, and he has to do what he needs to do in order to make her look like what we saw in the photos, right? So
Right.
I'm not a professional when it comes to knowing how bodies decompose, right? So I would imagine that it doesn't take too much time to do what it needs to do, right? So you think about, he has the body for X amount of years, right? But then how long does it actually take to um how long does it actually take to get the body to look like we saw those photos, right? And then fast forward to the kid taking the photo, and he takes the photo of what was probably what we saw in some of those photos, some version of it. But then when you look at the photos of the real life person, like, she doesn't look anything like what the duded up photo is.
There,
It's so weird to me.
there had to have been a smell there. There's
Yeah,
no
but the
way there
smell
was
would
not a
go
smell.
away after a little bit of time. It's probably different when it comes to bodies. I remember one time I worked at a pest control company, and I don't. It was so creepy, but we were. I was with this guy, and I'm still fairly new, and we're out in the middle of nowhere. It's the middle of winter, and we start talking about death because we're talking about mice and rats and things like that, people's houses, and mice and rats will go into people's homes, especially when they're not there. They're trying to escape the cold and stuff. Not.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so he starts telling me about the smell of death, and then he starts. He goes, I don't know if you know this, but all death smells the same. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know for sure. I'm taking his word for it, but that's what he
Right.
told me. He said all death smells the same. Doesn't matter if it's a rodent or a human being. It all has the same smell, and then it all goes away after a while. After a certain amount of time, the smell will just go away. Just because there's no more fresh meat to smell. It's all done. It's been, how
True.
you got a cut on your arm, and after a while it starts to get hardened over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it does when organic matter dies, the body goes cold, so the blood underneath the skin is no longer nourishing the underneath part of the scab. So the top
Right.
part of the scab that's why we call it the scab, and then underneath is still flesh. It's still good to go flesh. So once you lose that vis-a-vis dead corpse, you're doing that from both sides, and so it holds it in, and then that's when it like bursts out with this crazy smell. But it goes away after a while. Once it's all done, it's done.
Gotcha.
So
That's interesting.
yeah, so that's
So
why
yeah,
that's why I think it's crazy to me, because you think about, I only have mice and rats to go off of, just being a pest control person, but you think about like how long it takes a mouse to decompose completely, right?
mm-hmm.
So it's just a weird thing in my head that I'm like, how did this even come to be? How did we know? How did he know to go and tell the right people? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, I mean, back then Key West was a pretty small town. Everybody
Well,
knows
that's very
everybody
true
kind of
too.
there.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but yeah, so her sister finds out. So then Tanzler was arrested. The charges were dropped.
yeah. And that might be part of what I was just saying. Like how do we know that it was him? Even though that's creepy, how do we? Unless they went and dug up. Did he do so much work? Like you can no longer tell.
Well, I did hear, and I don't know. This is not fact. I heard this. I heard on a documentary. I don't know how true it is. Again, leave comments in the comment section. Let us know. But I heard they told him to get out of town, and
Yeah.
before he got out of town, he supposedly blew up the mausoleum.
Oh wow.
I don't know how true that is. But
It's worth
so
looking
yeah,
into.
it's really interesting. And then they put her body on display, and people, of course, back then, obviously in 2025, there's not going to be an issue like they're not going to be putting any body on display. Things were different back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, they put her body on display for people to. I guess people came from all over and looked at it. And then Carl Tanzler himself died in Pasco County, Florida, reportedly still obsessed with her.
Wow.
So what an interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, and if anybody's listening to this podcast and they've never heard this story, look him up. Oh, and we didn't cover that. Uh, he also called himself or claimed to be. What was the name? Count Carl van Kossel.
Yeah. Yeah. Something like that. I actually have it right here. Tanzer claimed to have vision. Okay, deceased ancestor. That's interesting stuff. Um, yeah, I think that was it. That was actually it. And I think I actually have it written down here as well. Right there. Yeah, count something.
Yeah, Carl van Kossel is how I would
Yeah,
say it. I'm horrible with names like
yeah,
that
Count
anyway.
Carl von Kossel.
Kossel, yeah.
Cosel. Yeah,
So there you go. The good Count
yeah,
decided to get him a girlfriend.
yeah. That's it.
That's what we like
Yes.
to do here on the Two Cousins podcast. We like to
Let's
cover
talk
some odd
about
shit when
weird
we
stuff,
can. Yeah,
man. Weird stuff.
yeah.
Well,
So,
very cool.
dude, what are we got some big plans for this podcast in the future here.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. I know there we want to have another guest. There's one special guest that said that they'd be willing to come on later on after they're part of the other podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll hold off of that until it happens, but that will be really cool. Um, was there anything in particular that I'm missing on in terms of like what's next? I know we've talked about a few different things, just not on the cast.
Yeah, we don't really have anything decided next, but what we're going to try to do is cover a lot of stuff, like this Carl Tanzler murder mysteries. We're going to get into some of that. We're going to get into some World War II history, some Civil War history. We're going to try to focus on general history because I don't feel like there's enough of that out there. And For the people that don't know it, our other podcast is a very successful podcast at this point called the History of Aviation podcast. So go check that out. That's with me, Shay,
Yep.
and Julian Martinson. And yeah, we're just going to do mostly general history. So if anybody has any thoughts, any ideas, any subject matter that you would like us to talk about, and if there's anybody out there that is very knowledgeable on the subject they want to talk about, we will have you on. I don't mind.
Yeah, neither do I.
So, but it's for the love of history. And history is something that I think is dying, and I think we need to talk more about history. But let's try not to go grave digging next time.
Right, exactly. I don't mind. I don't mind digging things up, just preferably not bodies.
Exactly. All right. Well, we'll see everybody next time for the Cousins podcast. I'm Derek Beeler.
And I'm Shay Jones. Have a good rest of
See
the
ya.
week.
Have a good one.
Bye.